This might have been the night Caitlin Clark finally said she was done being patient, because against the Golden State Valkyries, something felt different. Not angry, not reckless, just different. Like all the frustration from the last few weeks suddenly disappeared and got replaced with one message: enough. And for stretches of this game, it honestly looked like Caitlin Clark stopped trying to survive the physicality and just decided she was going to impose herself on the game instead. The stat line looks good. 22 points, 9 assists, 4 made threes. Indiana gets the win. Nice. Move on. Except that doesn't actually explain what happened, because this wasn't one of those smooth, pretty Fever wins where everything clicked. This game was ugly, choppy, physical, weird officiating. Missed shots everywhere. And for a while it looked like Indiana might waste another game despite having the better players on the floor. Then Caitlin Clark started pulling from deep again. Started attacking downhill again, started talking again, and suddenly the energy completely changed. But the real story might not even be Caitlin, because while Clark was grabbing all the attention, Aliyah Boston quietly had one of the biggest games of the season, and almost nobody realized it in real time. 20 points, 16 rebounds, 3 blocks. One of those performances where you look up late in the game and suddenly realize she's been controlling everything underneath while everybody else was watching logo threes. And for the first time in a while, it actually felt like Indiana's two biggest stars were playing off each other instead of taking turns. Then came the moment everybody started talking about. Clark hits a deep three, turns, and gets right in the Valkyries' face, not over the top, not technical worthy, just enough to let everybody know she wasn't backing down anymore, and suddenly people online started saying the same thing. Did Caitlin Clark just go dark side? Because if this version of Clark is real, if she starts combining logo range with downhill aggression and lets herself play with attitude instead of hesitation, Indiana might have unlocked something a lot sooner than people expected. And honestly, this game started in a way that should make Fever fans a little uncomfortable, because Indiana keeps doing this thing where they come out looking sharp, build momentum early, and then suddenly everything slows down for no reason. The Fever actually started this game pretty well. The energy looked good, the pace looked good, Clark looked aggressive early, but once again, Indiana let the game get messy in the middle. And against better teams, that kind of stuff becomes dangerous fast. The weird part was Golden State honestly gave Indiana plenty of chances to pull away. The Valkyries missed a ridiculous number of opportunities. Open shots, easy finishes, layups that normally go in. There were stretches where it felt like they couldn't buy a basket even when Indiana's defense broke down. Fever fans online were split watching it happen, because half the people were saying Indiana's defense looked improved, and the other half were saying the Valkyries simply couldn't convert anything. Either way, Indiana wasn't creating enough separation for how rough Golden State looked offensively. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark quietly started putting pressure on the game before people even realized it. She wasn't forcing logo shots every possession. She wasn't hunting highlights. She was controlling pace, picking moments, getting downhill, finding teammates. Then every once in a while, she'd casually pull up from deep and remind everybody she still has that range whenever she wants it. By halftime, she already had double-digit points with multiple assists, and it felt different from some of her earlier games because she wasn't trying to do everything herself. She looked calmer, more in control, but the player that almost nobody was paying attention to early was Aliyah Boston, because while everybody was watching Clark's shot start coming back, Boston was quietly dominating. Rebounds started stacking up. Defensive possessions started ending with her. Easy interior finishes started appearing, and the scary thing for the rest of the league was this didn't feel forced. It felt natural. Like Indiana was finally remembering they have another star on the floor, and once that connection between Clark and Boston really started clicking, the entire game changed. And then Caitlin Clark started reminding people why defenses panic the second she starts feeling comfortable, because somewhere in the second half, the game stopped feeling controlled and started feeling personal. Clark started pulling from deeper range, started attacking harder downhill, started playing with more emotion, and honestly, for the first time in a while, it looked like she stopped worrying about everything and just started hooping again. One sequence completely changed the energy. Clark brings the ball up. Defender gives her a little space. She pulls from way outside, boom logo, three, and she didn't just run back quietly. Either she let the moment breathe, she turned and got right in the defenders' space, like she wanted everybody to know exactly what time it was. Not disrespectful, not over the top, just enough edge to make people notice. And immediately fans online started saying the same thing. Caitlin Clark went dark side tonight, but honestly, what made this performance feel different wasn't even the shooting, it was the drives, because Clark looked way more aggressive getting downhill than she had in some earlier games. She attacked contact, got into the paint, forced rotations, and once defenders collapsed toward her, everything started opening up. Kickouts got cleaner, interior passes appeared. Indiana suddenly stopped looking predictable offensively, and that's where Aliyah Boston started eating. One rebound, another finish, another stop, another easy basket. Before people realized it, Boston was quietly putting together one of those games where you look at the box score later and go, wait, she had how many rebounds? 20 points, 16 boards, 3 blocks. That's not role player production, that's star production. And for maybe the first time in a while, it felt like Clark and Boston weren't taking turns carrying Indiana. It felt like they were finally playing together. And once that happened, Golden State never really got control of the game back, but before Fever fans get too carried away with the final score, this game also showed something Indiana still hasn't solved yet, the bench, because there were stretches in this game where Indiana's depth looked really shaky again. Outside of the main group, there were long moments where production just disappeared. And honestly, if Golden State had finished better around the basket, this game probably feels a lot different today. The Valkyries missed a lot of makeable shots. Open looks, layups, clean drives. There were possessions where Indiana's defense got beat and simply got bailed out by bad finishing. That's not something you want becoming a habit moving forward. At the same time though, credit where it's due, Indiana didn't panic. That's actually one of the biggest differences people noticed in this game. Earlier in the season, games like this felt dangerous because once momentum shifted, the Fever sometimes looked rushed. This time they stayed calmer. Sophie Cunningham gave them important minutes. Extra energy, timely buckets. The role players weren't spectacular, but they did enough to keep Indiana steady while Clark and Boston controlled the game. And honestly, Caitlin Clark's stat line almost undersells how much she controlled this. Game, 22 points, 9 assists, multiple huge momentum shots. But what stood out most was she didn't force the extra numbers. There were moments late where it almost felt like Indiana wanted to get her one more assist for the double-double, and it just never happened. But Clark didn't chase it. She kept making the right read, kept moving the ball, kept letting the game come to her. That's usually a really good sign, because when Clark starts combining patience with logo range, that version becomes really difficult to deal with, and suddenly, Fever fans started realizing something. Interesting, this wasn't even peak Caitlin. Clark, this felt more like a warning, and that might be the biggest takeaway from this game. This didn't feel like one of those nights where Caitlin Clark had to completely hijack the offense and save everybody. This felt different. This felt controlled, because even though Clark had the highlights, even though the Logo 3 got everybody talking, and even though the attitude showed up in moments, she never looked out of control. She let the game come to her. She trusted Boston, trusted the offense, picked her spots, and Indiana looked better because of it. That's what should probably scare the rest of the league more than the final stat line. 22-9 is a great night, but it didn't feel like 22-9. Felt easier than that. There were stretches where Clark almost looked like she was coasting, and then suddenly she'd remind everybody she could pull from 30 feet whenever she wanted. That's a dangerous version of her because defenses never really get comfortable. The second they start relaxing, she changes the game in one possession. And at the same time, Aliyah Boston quietly looked unlocked, not forced touches, not awkward. Spacing, just natural offense, easy. Seals, rebounds, interior control, dusty. 20 points and 16 rebounds without making the entire game revolve around her is exactly the kind of balance Fever fans have been waiting to see, so yeah. The win wasn't perfect. The bench still has questions. The defense still had moments. Golden State missed shots they normally probably make, but Indiana needed this, because after all the noise, all the discussions, all the overreactions, this finally looked like a game where Caitlin Clark and Aliyah Boston reminded everybody what this team is supposed to feel like, and if this connection keeps growing, the conversation around Indiana might start changing really fast. And honestly, This might end up being remembered as something bigger than just another Indiana Fever win, because for weeks, the conversation around Caitlin Clark felt strange. People were questioning the shot, questioning the pace, questioning whether teams had started figuring her out. But this game felt different, not because she scored 50, not because she forced a triple-double, but because she looked comfortable again. The logo range looked back, the confidence looked back, and maybe most importantly, the fun looked back. At the same time, Aliyah Boston quietly reminded everybody she's still one of the biggest matchup problems in the league when Indiana actually uses her correctly. 20 points, 16 rebounds, 3 blocks. That's the kind of game that wins basketball games even when nobody spends all night talking about it. And if Indiana can keep getting this version of Clark and this version of Boston together, things get really interesting really fast, because suddenly this stops being a team waiting for Caitlin Clark to save them every night and starts becoming a team opponents actually have to game plan for. Now, let me know what you think. Caitlin Clark officially bring her three-point shot back? Did Aliyah Boston have the most underrated performance of the night? And did Indiana finally unlock something bigger than just one win? If you enjoyed the video, hit like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Alright, Fever fans. Now I want to hear from you. Did Caitlin Clark officially flip the switch in this game? Was this the night she finally stopped trying to play safe and started looking like herself again? And maybe the bigger question, did Indiana finally unlock the Caitlin Clark and Aliyah Boston connection everybody's been waiting to see? Drop your thoughts down in the comments. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of the latest Caitlin Clark and WNBA coverage. And we'll catch you guys in the next one.